become crystal clear to me that after covering Broly in multiple videos, this character has been massively downplayed. I've seen people argue he's not even on Super Saiyan 2's level, that Cell would destroy him, or that he was easily beaten by Goku and a handful of weakened Z-Fighters. And the result of the mindset is that Broly gets written off as fodder, or worse, an average movie villain. But here's the problem. None of that holds up when you actually look at the evidence. Just saying those claims are wrong in and of itself, so I decided I'm going to make a video talking about it. Let's break down the counter arguments to all that Broly hate. We'll be focusing on his movie 8 and 10 appearances specifically, and by the end it'll be clear that the Legendary Super Saiyan is still far stronger than most fans give him credit for. The first thing that needs to be addressed is what many fans consider new information regarding the boost Goku received at the end of the Broly movie, an event that ultimately led to Broly's supposed defeat. This moment is often the foundation for downplaying Broly, since Goku didn't transform into Super Saiyan 2 or achieve any new flashy form. Instead, he simply gained energy from the Z-Fighters and managed to fight back. So let's start by breaking down what some people dismiss as just a small boost. According to the official promotional pamphlet for the film, Goku received a 1,000-fold boost in Yuki thanks to his combined efforts from the Z-Fighters. For context, Yuki translates to courage. In Dragon Ball, Ki is composed of 3 distinct elements. As Akira Toriyama explained in an interview years ago, spiritual energy, Genki, courage, Yuki, and right-mindedness, Shoki, when asked what determines the outcome of a battle. Toriyama specifically noted that the size of one's ki is the most important factor. The boost Goku received during the Broly fight was specifically tied to his Yuki. Courage in Dragon Ball directly impacts performance and power fluctuations. A prime example of this can be seen in Gohan's battle against Cell during the final beam struggle. Gohan was consumed by self-doubt, blaming himself for Goku's death and even believing he was already fighting at full strength. But Goku reminded him that he wasn't, explaining that Gohan was subconsciously holding back because of his fear of damaging the Earth. Once Gohan let go of this mental restraint, he unleashed his true power and completely overwhelmed Cell, destroying him in the process. Importantly, just moments earlier, Gohan had lost hope altogether after losing his arm and half of his energy. He was ready to give up until Goku stepped in, restoring his courage and state of mind. Several official guides even mention that Goku helped Gohan in this final clash. While some misinterpret this as Goku physically lending energy or assisting with the Kamehameha, what really happened is that he restored Gohan's confidence and by extension his ki. This clarification is critical because it shows that Gohan didn't win because Goku handed him energy necessarily. He won because he regained what he had already lost that was mentally nerfing him. This allowed him to fight at his absolute peak, a power level so high that even 7 years later, Goku and Vegeta didn't surpass it until achieving Super Saiyan 2 after years of intense training. In fact, Vegeta himself only acknowledges surpassing Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 during the Buu Saga when Goku achieves the form as well. Now, if Gohan's resurgence was that powerful from a single mental boost triggered by Goku, imagine the scale of Goku receiving a 1,000-fold Yuki boost fueled by the combined support of multiple fighters. That's on an entirely different level. And here's the kicker. The 1,000 boost might actually be a low ball. In fact, Koyama, who was directly involved with the series, gave an interview about this very boost, and what he revealed makes it even more significant. Koyama-san, What's Going On is a pamphlet that Toei Animation themselves distributed to promote the movie, where we learn that Goku gained power 1,000 times over fueled by his camaraderie. I don't have the pamphlet in question, so I can't say for sure, but it seems like the number and the 1,000 times power I mentioned might not be meant to be taken literally, but rather a way of expressing that he received a major power increase thanks to the combined strength of his friends. Do you think the number in other Dragon Ball medias are also expressions rather than numbers meant to be taken literally? I haven't checked, so I can't confirm, but that's how it is in most cases, don't you think? The 1,000 boost shouldn't be necessarily seen as Goku's limit, but rather a placeholder meant to convey the audience that he had received a massive increase in power. If you take that literally though, a 1,000 times boost will push Goku far beyond even Super Saiyan 3 levels in that moment. Some people argue that since it was specifically a Yuki boost, it only represents 1/3 of his ki, meaning that the actual multiplier will be close to 333. However, as Toriyama explained, ki is divided into 3 components and each one influences the other. It's clear that these aren't isolated values but interconnected aspects of one's energy. So realistically, the 1,000 times increase would apply in full, if not even more. To put that into perspective, Super Saiyan on its own is 50 times multiplier of the base form. Stacking 1,000 on top of that means Goku was operating at a minimum of 50,000 times multiplier, and that's being conservative. But here's the interesting part. Broly actually scales well above the very attack that appeared to take him down. When Broly is finally defeated by Goku's 1,000 courage boost at the end of the movie, it can reasonably be seen as an off-guard moment rather than a straightforward loss. Up until that point, Broly was casually overwhelming Goku, and even after Goku received power from the others, Broly wasn't taking the fight seriously. He was simply toying with Goku, waiting for him to give up so he could prolong his suffering. What changes the outcome is the sudden extra boost from Vegeta, which Broly clearly wasn't expecting. He likely underestimated the magnitude of the amp Goku received. PTSD. On top of this, Broly experiences PTSD in that instant, reliving his traumatic memories of Goku's crying as an infant, something that had fueled his hatred from the very beginning. This shock caused him to lose focus, leaving him vulnerable. In that state, Goku's final strike essentially becomes a free, uncontested hit, allowing him to one-shot Broly despite not truly overpowering him in a fair exchange. This interpretation is consistent with what's actually shown on screen with Goku's Miracle Punch, where the flashback of infant Goku besides Broly is highlighted to remind viewers of the psychological trigger behind Broly's breakdown. Further support comes from the comments made by the screenwriter for the Dragon Ball Z movies, which reinforce this perspective. Greetings to you, Koyama-san. I have a question about Broly. Most Saiyans have a measurable boost in their power, but in Broly's case, it seems to be his power just keeps rising and rising. Did you consider capping him off somewhere, or would he have just kept getting stronger forever? At the time, when I was writing the Broly arc, the whole point of Broly was that he was just meant to be some guy stronger than Goku. So strong that he was an enemy Goku wouldn't be able to beat under conventional means. Koyama himself has stated that Broly is never truly shown fighting at his full potential, and someone like Goku could never realistically defeat him in a straightforward battle. Looking at both movie 8 and 10, Broly is mostly seen toying with the cast, tormenting them rather than fighting seriously, and ultimately only loses because he's caught off guard. In movie 8 specifically, Broly doesn't anticipate Goku suddenly gaining as much power as he did. During their clash, Broly experiences a PTSD episode tied to his traumatic childhood, which caused him to lose focus mid-exchange. As a result, Goku lands a decisive strike at the exact moment, and Broly is no longer fully aware of the battle and effectively ending the fight in a single blow. And what's funny about this is that Broly survives. Broly not only survives this attack that he was caught off guard and hit with, but as well as the comet coming in contact with the planet and destroying it. That's why we see Broly in movie 10, because somehow he escapes after all of this. Pretty insane when you think about it. Another interview from Koyama explaining why Broly made 3 different appearances also sheds light on this idea. Why did Broly come back 3 times? Because he's the strongest. Even including the TV anime, nobody exists in the world who's stronger than Broly. I mean, even Vegeta, Prince of the Saiyans, was trembling in fear. I felt that there's no way that kind of mightiest being would die in a single outing. After all, there were kids who cried at Broly's overwhelming strength when they saw him burn up at Shueisha's pretty preview screening. It's always difficult coming up with an enemy for Goku because I'd constantly have to escalate their strength, so he ended up appearing 3 times. This is true of Broly as well. But Goku and company are always fighting against an unbearable foe. Goku must win against such an enemy, so he has no choice but to defeat him when his enemy becomes overconfident and creates an opening. There's absolutely no way he'd be able to win against someone like Broly using orthodox methods. This statement doesn't just support the idea that Broly was off guard, it outright confirms it. And it isn't mere headcanon, but rather a direct word of God statement from one of the key creators behind Broly's character, who also had an immense influence as the director of the Dragon Ball anime and its filler. Even more telling is that this wasn't just Koyama's view. The entire movie staff and anime team were in agreement. As documented in full official movie pamphlets, to them, Broly was designed to be the ultimate enemy, and the idea of being defeated cleanly in a single outing never sat right with anyone involved. This also helps explain Broly's so-called anti-feats or odd performances against weaker characters. They weren't true reflections of his limits, but narrative necessities. Movie 10's version of Broly is definitely stronger than his movie 8 self, but it's difficult to determine by how much, since even in movie 8, Broly never truly fights at his full power. Because of this, Gohan has no real frame of reference for what Broly's upper limits even look like. That said, Gohan initially believed he might have had a chance at taking Broly down. However, after clashing with Broly's base in Super Saiyan forms, Gohan's confidence began to fade. He quickly realizes that his gains since the Cell games might not be enough. So if one were to argue that movie 10 Super Saiyan 2 Gohan could overwhelm movie 8 Broly, then logically movie 10 Broly would be exponentially stronger than he was in movie 8. Which brings us to Broly's second defeat, during the Omega Blaster versus Family Kamehameha struggle. This scene is framed as a direct escalation of the father-son Kamehameha that defeated Super Perfect Cell. The difference here is that instead of Goku's spirit empowering Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the afterlife, Broly is faced by Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and even Goku himself. Contrary to the popular belief that Goku's appearance was just a Dragon Ball induced illusion, there are guidebooks, staff comments, and even in-movie cues, including Broly directly reacting to Goku, that imply Goku was truly present in some form. Even so, this doesn't change much. The Omega Blaster isn't presented as some ultimate attack, it's essentially a casual energy sphere Broly tosses at them. The Z-Fighters struggle against it, and when they finally start to push back, Broly counters by hurling multiple blasts in rapid succession, once again overwhelming them while laughing. It's only when Trunks takes the risk of detonating the blast before they expand that Broly becomes distracted. In this split second, the Family Kamehameha overwhelms him and he is defeated. It's important to note that the intercepting or directing energy attacks in the movie isn't an impressive feat by itself. Characters far weaker than opponents have done this repeatedly across the films. More importantly, Broly's downfall in both movie 8 and movie 10 follows the same pattern. He's caught off guard by sudden teamwork or hidden bursts of power, concepts he can't properly initiate. His defeat consistently highlights his reckless overconfidence and inability to adapt. not a genuine gap in destructive capability. Even in Bio Broly, this trend continues. The incarnation holds back noticeably, and his true power is only briefly teased. His aura manifestates once in the film when Goten suddenly powers up in a fit of rage, momentarily pushing Bio Broly back. Even then, Broly regains control and crushes Goten again, only losing due to the corrosive bio liquid, not because he was outclassed in raw strength. So across all three appearances, the same idea persists. Broly is written as a monster of overwhelming might whose downfall only comes through unusual circumstances, surprise teamwork, or environmental factors. At no point do we ever see him push to his genuine maximum, not even when he was seemingly one-shotted by Goku that everybody tries to bring up. So please tell a friend and stop downplaying Broly.